salt brine soap is it's the soap that you take a portion of your, and this is my lye water. And I normally don't have lye water. I normally have just my milk that's mixed with my lye, except for when I make my coconut soap, and then I do a very strong lye water concentration. So I kind of flipped this upside down from what I usually do because I wanted to be able to add more salt. And when you do this method, I usually use 100% salt. When you do this method, you can only use about 20 to 25% salt. So I flipped it, and instead of having that 70% milk to add, now I've got the 70% water that I'm able to add 25% salt to. And in that 25% salt, which was just about 3 ounces, I did half pink Himalayan and half white Mediterranean sea salt. Again, because I believe that that pink salt has some additional, it does have several additional minerals, all of which I think our skin just craves and needs. So and so first I took the water, the always distilled water, and I really boiled it. And then I added the salt to that, and I stirred it, and it took a very long time. And I even, because of the pink salt, I even had to strain it once to get, and the sediment would have been okay. Normally the pink salt just goes into the salt, but I wanted it to be kind of pure. So I went ahead and strained it, and then I added the salt to it. I added the salt, it completely dissolved. I strained it. Then I added the lye, and I allowed that to cool down naturally. And so now I'm at about, let's see, 71.2 degrees. And that's my sweet spot for soaping. And for anybody that soaks, the reason I soak cold is because I am always soaping with milk. And I am always attempting to preserve as many of the benefits from, in many cases, the raw milk. In this case, I use an organic coconut milk. And the reason I use this particular brand, and there are others, but most of them have thickeners, additional thickeners and sweeteners and preservatives. Some have one or all of those things. And so in some of those that have all that are actually 2 or 3 times sometimes the price of this one. So just because it's more expensive doesn't mean that it's necessarily better. This Trader Joe's one, if you can get your hands on, and I know people that have ordered it online and they have to spend a little bit more, but it's really, really delicious. I drink it, I use it in recipes, and I use it in my soap. But anyway, so I took the amount that I usually have of water, of concentration, and I used my coconut milk. And I was able to siphon off mostly the coconut cream off the top, so this is like extra creamy. And then, because I had to give up some of what would have been coconut milk, I decided to use some organic coconut milk powder. I buy the powder. I don't use it in my soap making. I never have. But I use it for milk baths and also for masks and cleansers and sometimes scrubs. Anything I don't want to use fresh milk that could spoil in. So this is an organic one I really like. It has just lasted beautifully. I opened it up. It smelled great. Looked white. So I put a couple of extra tablespoons and reconstituted that in some oil. And that is making up the difference to get me to that 70% I'm used to using. And that makes like a really super creamy, adding milk makes a soap milder, many times very creamy. It helps the lather to be extra creamy. It adds conditioning. And then it does also, the natural sugars contribute to a more bubbly quality. So to me, it does a lot. And the reason I soak cold, and again, I said this one is at 72. And let's see what we've got here. My oils are at 74. That's pretty darn good. But I'm going to mix my coconut milk with my oils. And that's going to make this a little bit. My temperatures are close to even. I feel like sometimes the stars align. And that makes me very happy if I'm going to go to all this trouble. I spent most of the day getting all this together. And I also was studying and learning about a lot of history and everything about these salt brine bars because I haven't done this. So this is a bit of an experiment for me. So I'm going to go ahead and combine these. Isn't that pretty? So I'm basically just combining the milk with the oil. The salt brine, they say, makes the soap look very, very white, and with the coconut milk. And like I usually use extra virgin olive oil, which has this beautiful green color, and I love it. But because I wanted this to be white, I had this Nurture packaged olive oil from Spain that is very light and pure. So it's not extra virgin. So it had that light color. So all of my oils had the light color. So, and this was from Spain. So this was exactly 16 ounces, so the recipe was perfect for this. And I'm going to use my my favorite mold in the world, made by July. I'm wearing the t-shirt. The very best.
I add my cool salt brine live solution to my oils, butters, and organic raw coconut milk. And I mix that to a light trace and then pour off some batter that is a little bit of titanium dioxide, and then French cream clay and rose clay. And I added a significant amount of clay as compared to how much batter went into them, and so they were a little bit darker than I really wanted those colors to look. So you saw me add just a tiny bit of white. When I add a teaspoon of white, that's actually only less than a third of a teaspoon of that color. So now I just pour in some of the white batter first, and then I went with the green, the red, the pink, and then the naked batter, and I just alternate to fill that up. I'm going to use a swirling tool, and I don't have one long enough for this one, so the one I have fits the Amazon mold perfectly. So I do, you'll see me do a large circle, then a smaller circle, and then I just come back around and come straight up through the center, and that just gives a little bit of interest. And every now and then I use that method. I stripe in the naked batter, the green, the rose, and then the white, and I swirl it first back and forth and then a couple of different directions. You can see at the beginning that it was actually starting to get beyond the trace that really I like to swirl in, but I used some alcohol, I used some Mystic Gold, and then I cut it within about 5 hours, and that seemed to be the sweet spot. I love the way it turned out, love the lather.